The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Friday. All right, I got some good feedback from yesterday's episode. It was zesty. I'm going to start embracing being zesty. Kind of like, did I ever play this Jalen Ramsey quote? Jalen Ramsey's a really, really good NFL cornerback. I think he's a cornerback. Yeah, he's a cornerback. I know he played for the Los Angeles Rams for a long time. I think he got traded. Hold on, let me look. He's with the Dolphins now. Jalen Ramsey's with the Dolphins. But Jalen Ramsey had the zestiest interview post-game ever. Here, I found it.
You know what I'm saying? The game over with. You still mad because I was locking you up? All right, go sleep on that. I ain't trying to hear that after the game.
So you vowed that he wouldn't get in your head. But you managed to get in his head, you think?
What you think? You tell me. You tell me. Anytime I lined up on him. Yeah, y'all go watch that. Y'all go watch that. Y'all tell me who got in who head. He came up to me after the game. You feel me? Y'all tell me who got in who head. You an old man acting like that.
Oh, man, that's another one that, unfortunately, it doesn't do it justice unless you're seeing the video and seeing his facial expressions, because he doesn't have his shirt on. He's in the locker room, and he's like, they're asking him questions, and he's like, y'all tell me. Y'all tell me. He's zesty, man. He's zesty. All right, anyway. What I wanted to say is I got a lot of feedback from yesterday's episode, and I will say overall, I mean, I did have a couple people calling me crazy in a nice way, actually, nothing confrontational. But the most interesting thing is the recurring piece of feedback, and this was probably, I mean, it was only maybe 15 people, which is not a lot, but, it's not bad, actually. And the theme was, hey, you know what? I didn't think it would even be remotely possible to fake anything like that. But the passenger, the guy, John Nelson, basically everybody kind of called that out. They were like, man, that was totally off. He made mistakes. He said he was flying in from Detroit, and then his tone and everything was very different in the first Good Morning America interview than it was in the CNN. In the Good Morning America, he said we were all relatively calm. Then in the CNN, he said there was all kinds of chaos. So that one definitely was a recurring theme. And then the other recurring theme was the guy that was filming the crash part of it. And a few people are like, hey, I went and found the video you were talking about, and it definitely looks like he's in the cockpit of another plane, and his audio just did not sound like the way pilots communicate with tower, quote unquote tower, or air traffic control. Anyway, so that was a recurring theme. Those two things were a recurring theme for many people. And what I will say is the concept of things being too complicated and too big to try and fake, I will rebuke that simply by saying, think about 9/11 and again, the Pentagon, Building number 7, the United Flight 93, I think, that crashed in the field in somewhere in Pennsylvania. Forget about the towers, and I mean that respectfully, by the way. But what I'm saying is, I don't think anybody with a brain would ever, and although there are people that claim, oh, nothing actually hit the towers, it's like, all right, dude, come on. Like, that's just ridiculous. Mainly because there are no towers there anymore besides the ones they rebuilt. So forget about the towers. Obviously, the planes completely crashed into the Twin Towers. Now, there is an argument that can and should, and I think will continue to be made about whether the plane crash was part 1, and then the controlled demolition was part 2. And so what really brought down the towers was not the planes crashing into it, but it was the controlled demolition that was part of it. Okay, let's forget that for a second. What I'm talking about, though, in terms of something being so big and so insane to potentially fake, the best example to me is the Pentagon, the plane that, and I'll put plane in quotes on this one, the quote unquote airplane that hit the Pentagon, and then literally that video, that ABC video with Jamie McIntyre, where he talked about, he's saying, hey, I'm right up here, and man, there's nothing remotely like a plane. Hold on, let me see if I can find it again. This is actually would make a lot of sense listening to that now.
Outside the Pentagon, CNN's military affairs correspondent Jamie McIntyre. And Jamie, you got very close to where that plane went down.
That's right, Judy. A while ago, I walked right up to next to the building. Firefighters were still trying to put out the blaze. The fire, by the way, is still burning in some parts of the Pentagon. And I took a look at the huge gaping hole that's in this sideway. But from my close-up inspection, there's no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon. The only site is the actual side of the building that's crashed in. And as I said, the only pieces left that you can see are small enough that you could pick up in your hand. There are no large tail sections, wing sections, a fuselage, nothing like that anywhere around.
So, like, I consider that's precedent, something so big, such a enormous event. Did it really happen?
From my close-up inspection, there's no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon.
So the question becomes now with the Toronto situation. I mean, again, I don't know. And God, it's like it's so challenging talking about this type stuff with some people, because if you are completely closed off to anything happening besides what you're being told happening, then again, yeah, this is going to sound crazy, but so does a plane, or I'm sorry, so does the concept of a Scud missile being fired into the Pentagon and not a plane being crashed into the Pentagon in 2001. I mean, I think there are still people to this day who would not be willing to even entertain anything besides what we were told about 9/11, which was that 4 planes were hijacked by a bunch of Muslim fundamentalist terrorists, whatever you want to call them, and they crashed them. I mean, there's probably many people, and you guys probably know many people. Heck, you might be one of those people, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing you, who might not even remotely think that there's anything else that could be taking place besides that. And so, I really like that CBS, CNN, Jamie McIntyre clip because, again, remember in 2001, it was a much simpler time in this world. And quite frankly, I don't think the nefarious nature of things really had started to take place. I think the military-industrial complex was alive and kicking at that point, but it definitely was not what it is what it is today. And so in 2001, honestly, I think it was a lot more truthful back then. And I can honestly say I think mainstream media was a lot more truthful back then. I don't really remember the criticizing of mainstream media. I don't remember someone like CNN or MSNBC. I don't even know if MSNBC was created back then, but CNN obviously was. I mean, honestly, like in 2001, if you asked me or anybody, we would think CNN was gospel. We would probably be like, oh my God, of course they tell the truth. That's CNN. That's amazing. They're like the #1 news network. Same thing with like someone like a 60 Minutes or any of this stuff. We didn't question anything back then. And to be honest, I don't even know if there was anything to question back then. I really don't. I don't know how nefarious things were. Now, I think they had to have been, but again, I think it was a much simpler time. And so when you go back and listen to someone like Jamie McIntyre reporting on the ground at the Pentagon, looking at the Pentagon, and if you look at that video, dude is like 20 feet away from the Pentagon and he sees the damage and destruction. And he's like, there's no remnants of anything remotely like a plane anywhere near this. I mean, how do you not believe that? Like, why would he have gone on CNN live at that junction and not told what he was actually seeing? So anyway, all right, that's it on the Toronto thing. Nothing really came out yesterday additionally about this. So we'll see if anything else comes out. I have a feeling this will get completely brushed under the rug, and next week, prepare yourself. Let's see if something crazy doesn't happen again next week. It's kind of like, I said this like months ago or many episodes ago, where I was like, every week there's like crisis de jour or episode de jour of the day, of the week, whatever. And we end up kind of forgetting what happened that past week. I mean, just look at the past year, 2025, January and February, New Year's Day, the guy in New Orleans, whatever, I'm blanking on his name, and him crashing through New Orleans. That happened. That's forgotten. The Cybertruck bomber, that Matthew Livensberger, that happened. That's completely forgotten. Nobody talks about that anymore. That one actually was made such a big issue because of the Sean Ryan show and all of that. And then that email that he supposedly released to that guy, Sam Schumann. But again, completely gone out of discussion right now. And then the DC chopper hitting the plane, the Black Hawk, that went down. Okay, there you go, crack research team. That Black Hawk did go down. So that was a Black Hawk down. All right. I win that one. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I mean, think about that. That's pretty much out of the discussion. And I think what took place in Toronto come next week is not going to be talked about. Now, again, what I do want you guys to continue to pay attention to is, like I said yesterday, at the close of yesterday's episode, I ended it with saying there's two narratives that are being formed. The pro-Trump right side of the country, Republicans, conservatives, whatever you want to call that group, their narrative is to try and blame everything bad that happens on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and try to blame, for example, every airplane flight accident, saying, oh, the pilots must have been women, they must have been diversity, therefore they were undertrained and they took the job, and look what happens, crash, crash, crash. That's the right initiative. They are absolutely doing that. And pay attention. I think anything bad that happens, the right conservative wing is going to blame it on DEI. Anything bad that happens, the left side, the Democrats, the liberals, again, whatever you want to call that faction, they are going to blame it on all of the cuts that Trump, Elon, and Doge are doing. They're going to say, see, look at this. They cut out 1,000 FAA jobs, and look, we're having crash after crash after crash. So that's going to be the narrative creation on that side that gets created, even though, again, I mean, obviously Ed Bastian, who's the CEO of Delta Airlines, he came out and said what took place in Toronto with the Delta flight had nothing to do with the cuts that the Trump administration made, because those were all administrative cuts, and that had nothing to do with the flight crew as well as air traffic control in Toronto. Now, obviously, he's the CEO of Delta Airlines, so he's not going to, say any different to an extent. But my point is that when you see everything that happens, pay attention. And I promise you, the MSNBCs, CNNs, all of that side, again, the narrative that they're going to create is they're going to blame everything on the cuts, on Elon having too much control, which, by the way, I'm not disagreeing with that. You guys know that. But again, they're blaming everything on Doge and all of that, when fundamentally that's not true. And then, honestly, let me make sure I say this as well. The flip side of it, blaming everything on DEI and blaming everything on that, that's not true either. Neither one of those things are true. And so, this is where, again, I guess you have to make a decision in terms of, where you want to try and, I guess not have your energy, but at least have your mindset. And I'm telling you, I truly, I'm so happy now that my mindset is kind of where it is. And it's right in the middle in terms of calling balls and strikes. And again, I'll give you another example. If you really want to call balls and strikes when it comes to Doge and this Department of Government Efficiency, that quote I played from that lady, Cat Tempt or whatever the other day, she's totally right. It's like what's happening is the results that they're getting. And by the way, they are getting results. I mean, there's so much corruption and fraud and waste of money in our government. I love that that's getting fleshed out. Now, I hope it truly is getting fleshed out. And I really do. And I hope that it doesn't get replaced by some other type of corruption. Okay. So you've got to look at Doge, using that as an example, and say, hey, okay, I absolutely love all these cuts. I think they're needed. I think that there's so much fraud and waste. So I'm supportive of efficiency. So you can be on that side. And then at the same time, you can also be like, but you know what? It is a little bit strange how much access Elon's gotten. He's not, he appeared out of nowhere. All of a sudden, Elon Musk is everywhere. And so I'm a little weirded out by the level and speed of which he all of a sudden is a major political figure. I'm weirded out by that. That's literally me. I am absolutely weirded out by that. And that is making me stay hyper or uber critical of all the things that, that is going on with him. So anyway, I really would recommend getting to that place, because I still do have a lot of friends that, honestly, I know a lot of friends listen to this and I interact with them about it. And it is still a right versus left battle. And I'm just telling you, I shared this with one friend through a direct message interaction on Instagram. And I said, hey, I'm telling you this out of love, but like, you're going to drive yourself crazy for the next 4 years if you think everything that Trump and this administration is doing is bad and awful and with the most demonic intentions, because that's not true. It's just not. And you're going to drive yourself crazy if you keep thinking about that. So, try and separate the personalities and the people from the intended result. And again, that's really what I try to do with everything these days. And hopefully, by talking through all this stuff together, again, I hope that kind of helps you do that as well. All right, I'm going to keep it light and chill today. I have a bunch more clips, but you know what? I'm going to save them for next week. All right, listen to this. I'm going to take you out on this, random dude on TikTok, and he is basically impersonating Owen Wilson, the actor Owen Wilson, who's really funny. And he's impersonating Owen Wilson singing the Journey song. And it's just really funny. I think bro put Owen Wilson out of a job of being Owen Wilson. All right, call a spade. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves, and we will talk to you soon.
Oh, she probably was a small town girl, living in a lonely world. She took a midnight train. She was going anywhere. He was a city boy. He was born and raised in South Detroit, and he took the midnight train. God, he was going anywhere. Don't stop. Don't stop believing.
That was a great way to end it.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.